Joining us right now are a fabulous group of talkers for our Rethink the Week. Joining us once again is Egberto Willies, is a political activist, author, political blogger, radio show host, and business owner, software developer, web designer, how do you have time, and mechanical engineer in Kingwood, Texas. He is an ardent progressive that believes tolerance is essential. Oh, God, where have you come from? His favorite phrase is political involvement should be a requirement for citizenship. He is also the host and producer of Politics Done Right on Pacifica Network's KPFT in Houston, Texas. Welcome back to the program. Thank you so much for doing this, Egberto. Really, Egberto, what is it about the Fed that is unique and distinct? Oh, I think it's their investment in Wall Street. I think it's the economy. I mean, that they would even say it out loud, Egberto, is what is so shocking. These are kinds of things where you would think it sort of smells a little bit corrupt. You know, it's walking that fine line. And yet here they are. They're making up law out of whole cloth. There is no such thing as stare decisis. They're not really looking at the Constitution. They're not looking at the history of the United States because we've always had these independent agencies since the very, very beginning. Okay. This is not a new concept. And yet look what this court is doing, basically to sort of kiss the ring of Donald Trump. And at the same time, they're also kissing their own ring by suggesting that the Fed should be exempt. You know, it's so fascinating to me what they carve out.
Stephen said something earlier. You remember that the 2000 decision, first of all, they based it on protection under law. But when they went ahead and said that this only applied to this particular issue, that pretty much said it all about the Supreme Court as far as I'm concerned. But, when I listen to scholars, Alex, Stephen, JR, doctor scholars, okay? The one thing that always gets me is the amount of faith that one puts into the Constitution as the ultimate savior of the country. And the reality is I have, from the time I became a citizen and started to learn about the country, one of the things that I've had the least faith in is the Constitution and the most faith in people. And in effect, with all the machinations and wordiology that we use with regards to with all the machinations within the Constitution, I don't know how much it matters because, again, our system for all practical purposes is working as designed. That we have an electoral college to remove the power of the people, that's by design. That over the years, we have tried to make it better when senators could now be elected by the people. But we still made sure to keep the design of the system that protects earlier you spoke about how the wealth was distributed, et cetera. All of that is by design. And I think when we come to that realization and understand that none of this is an accident, if you listen to both Jamie's and Stephen's narrative, it's all designed within the system. Nothing will change except by a real populist movement, which is what I think is coming to pass.
Yeah, that's a very interesting, and that makes it really a possibility, Egberto, for me to talk about what I also saw as another story coming out of the Texas Tribune, that the National Democrats are putting the Texas House on the list of legislative targets for 2026. And so what I see in Indiana, Jamie, gives me, and yeah, maybe there is a backstory that I don't know about, but I'm going to take the story as I see it because I love it. All right. But then I'm going to go to what I'm seeing happening in places like Miami, in places like Georgia, where you're seeing, clearly gerrymandered districts or Republican-controlled cities like Miami for 30 years. Suddenly, Democrats are winning. I mean, she won in that recount by what is it? There was
19 points.
19 points. It was incredible. And so the reason, Egberto, I go to you is that in a way, maybe Abbott's gift to Democrats was the idea of giving Republicans 5 more seats. Because those 5 seats now are by such relatively slim majorities for Republicans. And what we're seeing is if you have a 5% edge, that's a walk in the park. We may be able to, beat that with 7%, 9%, 10%, 19%. So it might not just be that they don't get the 5, Egberto. They could actually accomplish even more as a result. But the other thing I think that's also interesting, Egberto, is, why there's another fraction and you want to look at the local level, Jamie, is that my understanding is, Egberto, that Texas has been overwhelmed with economic success. They've had so much in the way of surpluses. That may not be true next year. And there are people that have served in the Texas legislature that have never lived at a time when there hasn't been a surplus. So take what's happening nationally, look what's happening at the local and state level, look at the pushback, and Egberto, Texas could be the future of the country because what's happening in Texas could actually decide not only who is in Congress, but all the Republicans' plans may blow up as a result.
Can I tell you, you nailed it?
Oh, good.
Let me just say, you nailed it. Let me tell you something, Em. When everybody was worried about all this redistricting, right? All I did was smile. I said, please, Republicans, do it. Look at New Jersey. Look at Virginia. Look at Florida. Look at all these places where our margins have been double digits in a switch left. You go ahead and mess with redistricting now. And in order to get another district more Republican, that means you had to make one less Republican. And what that means now is those districts are now open. I'm going to give you a name, national name. This is a local person, but Laura Jones is running in a plus 15 district. And I went and gave a talk at her fundraiser. And I said, you know what, folks, don't think this is a goner. This is something you can win. I went up and looked at the demographic. Texas is, first of all, not a red state. Texas is a non-voting state. Yes, I went ahead and looked at the demographics of her district, District 8. And I realized it's a demographic that really should belong to Democrats. And I'm not just talking racially, I'm talking socioeconomically. It's a Democratic district. If these people suddenly believe that their vote would matter, guess what they'd do? They'd go out and vote. And you know who actually points that out indirectly? Ma'am Danny showed that when you talk to people in a manner that reaches their hearts, that reaches their needs, that they'll come out for you. Take a look at how the breakdown of votes for all these Democrats that won and look at where the margins came from. They came from new voters. They came from voters that normally don't vote. It was amazing. And you nailed it when you said that this redistricting may actually be a blessing for Democrats.
Yeah, Egberto?
I want to break in real quickly because I want to go to Jamie to say this. Jamie's concern is a concern that we should all have. And that answers your question right there, Stephen. And the following is this. The populist movement will prevent Hakeem Jeffries from being able to do the same that we did before. In other words, if we mobilize, it doesn't matter what these guys think they want to do because we are in control. That's it. So, Jamie, apathy got us here.
All right. So Jamie, I agree with what Egberto just said. And that is that I do think that people are beginning to sort of recognize that their authority, their passion, their ability to sort of live the safe and secure life is being taken away piece by piece by piece. And in some ways that if there's any reason to vote, it is that. And I know this. I lost an election in 1992. But in 1992, I ran on every progressive policy you could ever possibly imagine that's even progressive beyond today. You know what was interesting for me is that I got more votes than any Democrat in history in 1992, saying all those things. But here's the other thing. I not only lost, but I had skirt tails. And I brought in some of the most progressive legislators that came in because I was willing to go to the mat on all those progressive issues. But you know what else I did? The New Hampshire Supreme Court saw what I was talking about, looked at the turnout, looked at the response, and they too took a sense of what the body was willing to do. And that came out as what's called the Claremont Education lawsuit, where they said the way we fund education basically is unconstitutional. It happened the year after I lost. But what did I show? That we were on the verge of being very ready. So to a large extent, too, the court is going to not only sort of do their rulings, but if they see an incredible outpouring in 2026, they're going to have to pay attention to that, too. They speak to the court, not just Trump. We only have a minute left, Egberto, and again, I'm going to go back to what Jamie said, that it's so much about what's happening at the local level and at the state level. And again, I think the court is sort of handing us, not the court, the Trump administration is handing us stuff over and over again where they want to override states' ability to control AI. And now people are, for the first time, they're talking AI 24/7, but they're also very afraid of AI. And they would like to see some sort of controls. And what does Trump want to do? He wants to take that away. Well, that's something else you can play at the state level that basically says you need to change the conversation.
Yeah, I wrote a piece on AI where I said, don't fear it, but what we need to do is realize who really owns it. And it's not the billionaires that own it. It came from us all.
And on that note, I need to thank my fabulous panel of guests. This is our Rethink the Week with Jamie Rowan, a professor of legal studies at the University of Massachusetts in Amherst. Egberto Willies, a political activist and author, and he hosts the Politics Done Right on KPFT in Houston, Texas. Stephen Pimpere, professor of public policy and director of the master's program in public policy at Vermont Law and Graduate School. And Alexander Theodoridis, an associate professor at the University of Massachusetts in Amherst. And also he runs the UMass poll. Thank you so much for joining us. This, everyone, is the Monday edition. We will schmooze tomorrow, everyone. Ciao.